Hey, happy Father's Day to everyone out there. More on that in just a few minutes, but we got to react to an ESPN analyst suggesting that a New York Jets wide receiver is the biggest X factor to the season. We react and discuss. Let's roll here on a Sunday.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Paul Leston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcasts. But before we get into all that jazz about, an X Factor, a Jets wide receiver, I do want to wish a special happy Father's Day to all the Jet fathers out there. So thank you for everything you guys do, and specifically for my own father. There's not a lot of people that get the opportunity to do a show with their father. I tell my dad this all the time that, there are people, and there's my mother jumping in. Happy Father's Day. I appreciate that. And to everyone out there, there's some people that work like a construction job or something or whatever, a mailman, I don't know, where your father obviously cannot help you on the job or be a part of your job or anything like that. You're doing your job. He's doing his job. So it is pretty cool and unique. And I never take that for granted that every weekend I get to do this quote unquote hop on pop show where my father gets to hop on and we get to BS. And I know people love it and hate it and they're all over the place about it. So that's fine. But as long as I enjoy it and he enjoys it, that will forever be a guest on my show as long as he enjoys doing it. So it's so cool. Like I said, it's an opportunity I never take for granted. It's the coolest thing in the world. So amazing. It's an absolute honor for that to be the case. So shout out to him. And I know right now, I believe he's driving right now. So he won't probably be able to call in. But nonetheless, I wanted him to know that it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be able to do this with him and do this at all. So, again, absolutely honored. And without any further ado, guys, we were supposed to have a special guest on. This is the first time, or at least in a long time, that we've had a guest on here by special request. I work at a radio station every day, and we don't really do the, as DJs, we take in calls like, hey, I want Lady Gaga, or God knows whatever else people are calling in for these days. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll get right to that. We normally don't take calls anymore. We don't take those kind of requests. But however, I have been compelled by some fans of my program to bring a special guest here on the program. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's bring this man on. He is a Jets content creator. His link to his channel is directly in our YouTube description down below, and you can check it out. So let's bring him in. Let's ask, what's the good word? With DKB joining us here on the program. What's up, my man?
What's the good word, everybody? What's going on, Boy Green? It's been a minute since I've been up this early, actively doing anything not related to kids.
Yeah, I feel you there. That's for damn sure. I've got one and then another one coming here in a couple of months. So I feel you. So DKB, give us a little bit of an insight here. So you were a special request. So obviously you're a very popular man. And I must ask you, how long have you been doing Jets content creation?
It's been about, I think I'm actually getting closer to the 3-year mark than 2, but it's somewhere in that range. It's about 2-3 years. I just one day ended up just grabbing my phone and just recording something. And I was like, you know what? I already happen to have been doing YouTube for some gaming stuff. Didn't really work out that way. Started taking the fun out of gaming. So I said, let me just speak about something I'm actually passionate about as a fan. And fan base kind of came around, and took a bit to get going, but finally achieved some of that goal of being able to just chat ball at them on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Okay, so, and by the way, how did you become a New York Jets fan? How did that come about?
Yeah, so my interest when I was young was all over the place, but the West Coast had weird timing. So coming home, I would run into a lot of the shows like Reba and, the Jets shows and all that kind of stuff. But King of Queens was one of my favorite shows. And Doug, the main guy on there, happens to be a Jets fan. And something just kind of triggered when I finally bought my first Madden game. And the Jets was the first team I went to. Fell in love with a lot of the players we had at the time, with Kevin Mawai and such being on the team. So I just kind of dive fully head first into the New Jersey spirit at that point.
Wow, that's awesome. So, okay. So we'll get more into you throughout the show sporadically. We'll also open up the phone lines in a bit to get some calls in here. But what I want you to think about for a second, as we're about to play this clip from the Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny and Greg Rosenthal, they were tasked in their segment. It was a part of two shows. They did one for the AFC, one for the NFC, to pick the biggest X factor on every roster in the NFL, but the only rules were this: you couldn't pick a quarterback and you couldn't pick a coach. So as long as you picked any other player or factor on the team, that would be good to go. So think about that for a second, because we're going to ask you what you believe. But both of these, the ESPN analyst, that is Mina Kimes, and Greg Rosenthal, who works for the NFL Media Group, both ended up on New York Jets wide receiver Mike Williams. We're going to play this clip for you guys. You guys think about it and also interact in the comment section who your biggest X factor is. Again, outside of quarterback and outside of any coach. Let us know. Let's hear from Mina Kimes here and Greg Rosenthal as they explain why Mike Williams was their choice.
Okay. Who do you have for the New York Jets?
All right. I'm going to go Mike Williams. Their free agent signing, which I think was a good value. You just have to kind of look at, like, the Chargers. They were just a completely different team without Mike Williams. There's just so few guys that are ball winners like that, deep down the field, and is that physical. And yet they might get very little out of Mike Williams. There's no way to know how he is going to be, considering the injuries he's had in the past. He's had the back issues, and now he's coming off a torn ACL. Like, maybe he's going to be fine. Maybe he's going to be almost like a number 1B to Garrett Wilson, or maybe they get very little out of him. So to me, like, that is a huge just compounding factor of their offense. If he gets going, then they're going to be very tough to stop.
I also have Mike Williams. It's our first handshake pick. For a few reasons. If they hadn't drafted Olu Fashanu, I probably would have gone with Tyron Smith, but now that they actually have depth at offensive tackle, that made me a little bit more comfortable moving off of that, because, I mean, obviously the best version of this team is Tyron Smith playing all 17 games and beyond. Success for the Jets is a Super Bowl run, honestly. But they have some depth there. Whereas at wide receiver, while yes, Garrett Wilson is the obvious number one, the best offenses in the NFL, and again, success for this offense is, I don't think this Jets season is successful unless they have a top 10 offense. I guess I should start there, to pair with their already top 10 defense. That is, for me, to reach that level, you have to have two really good wide receivers, especially if you don't have great tight ends, which they don't. So I think back to, like you said, the Chargers offense, and when it looked really unstoppable and successful, and it was always when Mike Williams was on the field alongside Keenan Allen. They made it work without him because they often had to. But when he is on the field, he is such a nightmare against man coverage on third down, wins at all three levels. And when you think about defenses having to play to account for both him and Wilson, that's when you start to get scared. When you take him out of the equation, it feels more manageable. It still will be a million times better, obviously, than last year, but it's not. It's hard for me to imagine it being like truly great unless they get healthy Mike Williams. So
yeah, playing with Keenan Allen is great, but Garrett Wilson is just a whole nother animal at this part of his career. So that's only going to help Mike Williams.
Yeah, similar. You could see them using similar concepts with both of them, though, to when Keenan Allen was a little bit younger.
And again, some compelling thoughts there. We'll get more into that in just a second, but let's go to DKB. All right, who is your biggest X factor? Again, following the rules of the exercise for the New York Jets this season. Who would your answer be?
Yeah, I think the obvious choice has to be Mike Williams. So just in favor of not following the same line, I would actually go with Tyler Conklin. Reason being similar elements to the Mike Williams discussion. So dictating safety play, I think, is going to be a huge piece here. We've seen loaded box after loaded box after loaded box. We know what Garrett Wilson is at this point in time in terms of his floor, which looks like a top 15 wide receiver. We know what Breece Hall is as a top 5 running back. Tyler Conklin has quietly been one of the best players on this offense in a long time, averaging, I think it's 60 catches, about 600 receptions every season. And you can't really think of, outside of maybe 2 or 3 memorable games for him. He's just quietly productive. He's been the security blanket you can ask for, and that's with him being a borderline top 10 tight end. With the Rodgers precision, our ability to be able to utilize him in a lot of the matchups or mismatches we couldn't have taken advantage of with Zach Wilson, I think you do see him take the next step, especially with these added weapons that are around him. So I've been really looking forward to seeing what a fully productive game looks like from him, where he's not just being targeted in the fourth quarter of, a blowout game. And he does bring the full package: run game, pass game, blocking. So to me, he's a very underrated piece of his offense that I think people have kind of swept aside.
And I will just say this. You said you're looking forward to it. I know one other person who's looking forward to it. Tyler frickin' Conklin, for Pete's sake. I mean, after everything that this poor man has been through, I'm sure he's very much looking forward to that as well. And all the stars and moons could align for a couple of players. First off, Tyler Conklin, who's entering a contract year. So if he has this magnificent career season with Aaron Rodgers, either the Jets are going to pay him or 31 other teams are going to pay him. And the same is true for Garrett Wilson, who he's not technically in a contract year, but after you complete your 3rd season, you're eligible for contract discussion. So having that big season as soon as you become eligible is good for business. That's good for the brand, potentially for Garrett Wilson as well. I did not think about Tyler Conklin, but you know what, DKB? You've gotten the thoughts percolating upstairs. There's some motion going on up there, which is compelling. And I will say that before listening to this episode, I assumed it was probably Mina Kimes and Greg Rosenthal. Again, you can watch her full show on our Mina Kimes YouTube channel, or just look up wherever you find your podcast. You can listen to it as well. I thought the assumption was an offensive lineman somewhere. Dart throw, Elijah Vera Tucker, perhaps, to finally stay healthy. Perhaps it was Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, whoever you wanted to dictate. Could be Joe Tittman because of his ability to kind of control the rest of the line and set the tone, even as a younger guy with so many veterans on the team. I thought that's where they would go. But when they said Mike Williams, and then you just hear the compelling reasons, there is something to be said, because Mina Kimes had a lot to unpack there in her answer. But she said this Jets season wouldn't be a success unless they have a top 10 offense to go along with their already top 10 defense. And she said that she can't truly see this offense, this is Mina Kimes speaking, that she can't truly see this offense being great without a healthy Mike Williams. And I thought about it for a second, like, oh, that's kind of insulting. And then you really kind of comb through it. If Mike Williams isn't ready to go, he said in his own media availability at Mandatory Minicamp that he believes he will be ready to go for week 1. He will not be ready to go for training camp. Sounds like Robert Shaw said Breece Hall timeline, which would be like a mid-August PUP activation. So he'd have a handful of weeks before the season starts. And if he's not there, everyone can focus on Garrett Wilson as the lead wide receiver. And then your wide receiver 2, if Mike Williams, again, is not available, you're going Malachi Corley, who Robert Shaw called a raw route runner. Xavier Gibson's an undrafted free agent, and Alan Lazard, well, we could say a lot of words about him, but it's God's day. It's Sunday, for Pete's sake. So let me excuse my Guatemalan there. So you could go in that direction. Then you have Breece Hall, where, again, you could stack the box and double team Garrett, and then what do the Jets do from there? That would be a compelling reason. So Mike Williams is sneakily, we're not talking enough about it, about how important this guy is to the rest of the puzzle, but Mike Williams, when he's on with the Chargers, we saw the vertical play, big plays, the 50-50 ball. He's just a big-ass man. He's a grown-ass man. That's what Mike Williams is. So that's compelling. And I love Mina Kimes' answer, because it would have been Tyron Smith for me, but to know that we have the break-the-glass Olu Fashanu right there, that if Tyron was to go down, he's a Hall of Famer. And I'm not saying that's what Olu is, but He's a primo pass protector. That's what he nailed at Penn State, giving up either 0 sacks or 1 sack, depending on your analytics you like to lean into there for Olu Fashanu. Pretty damn good. So I like where the offensive line is at. Let me throw that over to you, DKB, in the morning. Also, you guys can check out, again, his full channel in the YouTube description down below. Do you believe in your heart of hearts? We're being honest here. It's just me and you. There's not hundreds of people listening, thousands of people watching. Okay, just me and you. Do you believe the offensive line will be healthy in 2024? Yay or nay?
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're getting hit back to back to back. But how often can you really suffer multiple injuries in the fashion that we have, right? I think I just had posted something maybe a couple of days ago, like averaging 13 different offensive line combinations over like 3 years. That kind of stuff is insane and unheard of, which is why we tend to be the joke. Ultimately, though, I think it comes down to we have created a better insulated plan in case people go down.
Right.
As you mentioned, Olu for Tyron. You have, ironically, still another healthy player that should perform better to replace Tomlinson from last year. Joe Tippmann's found a way to be able to fight through some injuries and different things like that, but you feel good about where he is. AVT ? Right? And then you have Morgan
John
Moses
Simpson as well. Yeah. Right.
Coming off of his problems. So there's still some question marks there, but I think it's essentially the same kind of conversation that you're having with Aaron Rodgers. If they're on the field, you have no question marks. It's can they stay? Can they remain? And I have faith in not only the starting unit, but when you take a look at the potential backups, I think we're in a good place there for as much as you can have faith in a backup.
I love your rationale, though, that, for God's sakes, God has smited us with a lightning bolt for 2 or 3 straight years on the offensive line. So for God's sake, eventually we have to be due. The coin has to flip. Heads, and then, oh, Jesus, tails. Yeah, woohoo. And we could go crazy with some gosh darn health on the offensive line, for Pete's sake. To your point, we're overdue. And excuse me, if we flip it to the other side, and I don't even want to talk about this, but I've heard the narrative in the social media streets, the defense has been incredibly healthy. The Jets haven't had any big injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So if we're hoping the football gods, we do the rain dance outside for no injuries on the offense, if the gods are to flip it, there could be an injury on defense, the potential that we have not seen. Now, we haven't had to see it, number one. And number two, we haven't had to see how do they respond to it, because obviously we've seen how the offenses responded to the offensive line injuries. Spoiler alert, not well, Todd, not well. But on defense, we haven't seen how they could counterpunch potentially, but their depth's pretty good at a couple of spots. But where you could kind of squint is like linebacker. You're heavy top 2, and then there's a lot of unknown. Defensive line, particularly with JFM gone, Bryce Huff gone, it looks good. Again, I always go to the trash bag commercials, hefty. But whippy. Yeah, all of a sudden you start kind of squinting. You're like, oh, well, what's going on over there? Is that Willie Shakespeare over there? You start shuffling the glasses, and you're like, not really sure what's happening there. That's where I think we could get a little funky. So those 2 spots, and then of course a lot of people are talking about safety. We'll start at safety. How confident do you feel in the safety group?
Confidence level, honestly, we're at a 5 or a 6, right? And that's not necessarily a negative thing. You are taking an aging veteran, serious injury. Tony Adams on a contract year is the best player that you feel about with the leaps and bounds he's been able to take. Still don't really know what he is. Can he be a turnover guy? Is he just a guy that negates a lot of stuff, which puts him in the same territory as Chuck Clark, to be honest. As a guy that doesn't make a huge impact, he's just not the reason your team loses. And then, of course, you have Ashton Davis. And then, honestly, nobody really knows what's happening with the 4th guy, right? Is it JBC? Is it going to end up being Isaiah Oliver? Will it be one of the UDFAs like Jarius Monroe, draft pick Jalen Key that's out there? So we're never going to have the bells and whistles, the oohs and ahs out of that unit. But I think as we've shown between the caliber of players we have in the linebacker room, the defensive line, they're generally looked at as the last line of defense. But I think we've seen at least the 2 expected starters. They've done a they've done the job well enough so far. Anything that we're getting outside of that is kind of the, icing on the top, which I think is a lot of where there was like Justin Simmons conversations and stuff come in.
Is that realistic? Some Jet fans are still, like, again, sacrificing small goats to the football gods, hoping that perhaps somewhere, again, right now it's June 16th, that unless it's happened over the weekend, I've not seen Justin Simmons as one name, and there's a few other, Quandre Diggs is still out there and a few others, but we'll stick it with Justin Simmons. It's June 16th, he ain't signed. We fast forward a month again. We're in the middle of this 41-day gap before we get to training camp. If he continues to hang around and be available, do you believe the Jets will sniff, or that's just unrealistic? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so. When you take a look at the cap situation, what's going to happen in just the next year alone, like you mentioned, we're going to have a few people eligible for contracts in and of itself, and it would still be a smart move to try to sign Garrett Wilson early, for example, with the crazy contracts that will come out there. It just doesn't make sense. If there's an in-season injury or something, Clark or Adams goes down, of course. But this is just one of the ways that the Jets defensive roster is built. You can save the most money in the safety room without having to pour big bucks in there. And we've seen them be able to go in and develop talents enough. So personally, I'm also on board with how things are being handled. I wouldn't necessarily go out and sign somebody right now. Plus, I think you're looking at probably having to pay Justin $6 or $7 million. He's on the market for a reason. It's not a productivity thing. It's more just everybody's looking at their cap and, twiddling their fingers.
100%. I think that's accurate. Again, he has more interceptions than anybody since he came in the league since 2016. So productivity, not the issue, but the financial requests certainly could be. We'll get back to the defense in a second, but I saw a compelling question from Jared B., who's a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. That's what that little logo means by his name. So if you guys would like to the 300 people in the room, feel free to click the money sign on the left side of the screen and join the Boy Green Coffee Club for a small fee every month. It's a cup of coffee, I guess you could say, virtually speaking. And his question is this: what about the talk that Xavier Gibson, could be the slot over Corley? There's been a lot of chatter about it. Again, I go back to the Robert Sala comment he said a few months ago about Malachi Corley being a raw route runner, and he's built. Pause, but he thick. Like this is a big boy. Like Malachi Corley is showing a lot of chutzpah. But a lot of people, I've seen Robbie Sabo talk about it from Jets X Factor about Xavier Gibson being this guy that's been wildly impressive throughout voluntary OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and he has experience in the system, and Corley obviously does not. Are you buying or selling all this Xavier Gibson stock that actually he could be the starting slot receiver even early in the year before the keys may eventually get turned over to Corley?
It's interesting. I go back and forth on this just depending on what time somebody tends to ask me. I think when the issue with OTA's hype, right, is always that people somehow forget we're not in pads, is, shorts and shirts. If you're a speedy, flashy, quick, twitchy kind of guy, you're going to have that opportunity to stand out more. When the pads come on, I think Malachi Corley, you see the opportunity for him to have more of those pop plays because that's his game. I'm physical. I just beat you up until you give up, type play. He brings a lot of that Quincy and Nunwa, mentality that we've all fallen in love with. So when the pads are on and he can actually go out there and get into your chest plate and make you second guess and make some business decisions, I think you see his hype build up, where then as Xavier Gibson, he's getting beat up on a little bit more because now people are up at the line of scrimmage. They're, getting him in the press coverage. I am intrigued by what I've seen, though, because it does look like on tape from some of the clips that he has improved quite a bit in his route running, which I think was lacking. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Gibson be the early guy on just because he has the leg up in the offense. Coaching staff is going to be able to truly see where those improvements are for him. But I think Corley probably snatches it pretty quick.
And man, great comp on the Quincy and Nunwa. Well, we missed we just wish the career could have been longer, and Quincy's been great. I appreciate that the Jets still have him around and being an analyst and being involved, because Quincy's one that we rooted for. And again, that infamous Idzik 12, we should have like a sound effect for that. God bless. But thankfully they found something that Baker's does in there, for Pete's sake. But since we're here on Gibson, real quick, he's also had the quote-unquote leg up in the return conversation as the returner, and the special teams roles have completely changed, as we will see in the preseason and regular season. he is the guy right now? Should he continue to be the guy? And yes or no, but also what should the type be? That's what some people have been debating. Should we get a thicker, stronger guy back there, or should we get like a track athlete, basically? Like, for instance, Ashton Davis was a former track and field star. I haven't heard him at all in the return competition, but just as an idea, a track guy that can break the initial line, and it's him versus the kicker, and let's see who goes to the house. Which type are we going to prefer here? We're going to have to wait till we see a sample size, but your prognostication, and then also what do you make of Xavier having the leg up early, whether that's the right call or wrong call?
Yeah, I think both archetypes can work, right? The speed guy versus just the one who's going to bounce off a million tackles and, get you somewhere closer or pay dirt. I think in these situations, right, this is where you see the Dolphins flounder, right? And then people start to clown them towards the end of the season. And when things get cold, the speed guys only last so long. There's a lot that you have to prey on over a full season to get that to work. Granted, these are special teams plays, so theoretically every time they should be coming in fresh so you can utilize it. Brant Boyer is one of the few guys that everybody in the NFL is going to trust to be able to make something happen based on what we've seen. I would probably put more faith in the guy that can make some things happen on his own, though. And I think that generally comes by the more physical kind of players. And we have a few guys back there that have the build, but they also have some underrated speed to them. So I'm not necessarily looking for anybody to hit pay dirt, but if you can average getting close to, the 50 or even getting to the other side of the field, I think that's a huge benefit in and of itself when you're talking about going from midfield and then handing it off to Aaron Rodgers and, letting him do his work to slice and dice things up for you. So
interesting. Okay. And let me ask you this before we get to the phone lines. I just have to ask you. I'm observing your background. I see a world map back there. There's some Jets action, some beautiful art. What's going on here? What do we have going on in your life? What is this background? Yeah, what do we got? Explain what we got here.
So that is the top piece is one of the pictures or drawings from my kids.
Oh, that's
right
wonderful.
below it. Dr. Seuss map. We ended up reading them a ton of books. This is some tapestry that has like an African lady on it with some sunflowers because the wife is big on sunflowers. And then
nice.
I had to try to fit in some Jet stuff that my mom got me somehow.
Okay, I love that. Okay, and feel free to punt on this question if you don't want to share these details. But you said you got kids. How many kids? Age? What are we talking about here? What do we got?
Yeah. So growing now, 2 boys, 4 and 2, and then I got a daughter that's on the way towards the end of the year.
Oh my God, when during the year? Because again, I'm November 18th. That's when my son's coming. So are we close?
Yeah, November 30th.
Holy cannoli. Oh boy. Again, it's funny. And again, that a lot of people thought I was being serious, but no, I was just joking. But this actually happened. We were in one of these baby appointments where, the doctor's trying to he just talked to us early on. And then he's like, do you guys have any questions at the end of this appointment? It's me and my pregnant fiance in the room. I'm like, actually, doctor, I have one. He's like, yeah, sure. What's up? I'm like, can you kind of plan this for the Jets bye week? And, he just first off he just kind of brought his glasses to the bridge of his nose, looked down at his notebook, looked up at me, looked down, looked up, and went he's like yeah, I'll see what I can do. But at that point the schedule wasn't out yet, so we didn't know actually when the bye week was. But then I hear the date, and then I see the bye week is actually aligned with the thing, and I was just like, thanks, doctor. And
doctor's clutch.
Doctor's clutch. And then I've had a lot of people say, Paul, that baby never comes when they're supposed to come. I'm like, I know it was a joke, but it's phenomenal that the doctor kind of put in a good word with the man above to kind of line it all up. It's very nice.
Natural born Jets fan you have coming. He's gonna wait.
Okay, which by the way, let me ask you that before we get to our callers, because I've heard from the chat that I'm like, people have asked me, oh, is your daughter and son now that's coming going to be Jet fans? I'm like, they don't have a choice. Of course they are. What are you talking about? But they said that is some form of abuse to just put that on them. Shouldn't you allow them to make their own decision? I said, absolutely not. You are born into this life and you just get it. That is what it is. I'm curious, what is your thoughts on that parenting technique? Are you in the same camp? Or all your children Jet fans? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think if you are a Jets fan and your children don't become Jets fans, something in the universe had to have happened, right? Because in general, I don't understand the process. If I'm watching games on Sundays, right, you don't have to be doing content or anything, but you're watching the games on Sundays, you know, involved in the OTAs, off seasons, all that kind of stuff. When are they being exposed to these other teams that they're becoming fans of?
Exactly. That's a wonderful point, right? Where else is there some sort of a drug deal happening at the school? Here's some Bengals tape. I'm a Bengals fan. You're damn straight. They're force fed the content. There is nothing else. Not even like content like me doing the show. Like they were force fed. I'm on Sunday. I'm like, woohoo! I'm watching some Jets. They're like, oh, what the hell is this? Oh, Jets. I see it all over the house. I see you watch it. Okay, I'm Jets. Yeah. What other choice do they have? The Saskatchewan Roughriders? Like, how is this information even becoming available? Astute observation and great parenting. I knew that you'd be right on the pulse. There's no question about it. Okay, DKB, I have no idea how much time you have. We didn't get to talk about that before the show. So if at any time you got to pull out, actually, I should probably rephrase that wording, but we're already out there. So anytime you choose to opt out, feel free to do so. But if you are available, I will be opening up the phone lines, okay?
Got you.
All right, beautiful. So let's do that. It is the pinned comment on YouTube, everybody. So if you'd like to call into the show, feel free to do so. We have over 300 people live in the room right now, which we appreciate. Again, like the video, hit subscribe down below. Spread the good word. If I could try to work that vernacular into the conversation. All right, let's go to the phone lines. We got EZ Edward here on the program. What's up, EZ? Oh, wow, you could drive in vehicles that aren't trucks. Okay, that's good to see, pal.
Hey, happy Father's Day, Paul. Listen.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't have my headset on, so there's a lot of more feedback on this. So let me just make my quick statement so I don't get the feedback.
Sure.
All right. So the question of the day was about which players do I think are going to make an impact? What I'd like to see is I would like to see Thomas Morstead do the kickoffs because he's a better defensive player on the opposing team's running back with the ball.
I like that. Connor, again, another great Jets content creator, Connor Long of New York Flight Jets Talk. He just had Thomas Morstead on the show, and I was able to tune in live late, and I threw that question out like, oh, does Thomas Morstead want to be the kickoff guy so he can light a mother up and just go booyah?
Wow, that's a lot of feedback I'm getting. Anyway, my second point is...
Okay, go ahead.
I like Braelon Allen on 3rd down and 3 or less. I think that's going to make a big impact on 3rd down plays. And that's all I'm going to say because I can't hear what's going on.
That's okay, Easy. Thanks for joining us on the show. So yeah, I asked it through Connor, Thomas Morstead, that, and he was like, I hope everyone else is doing their job, so you don't have to rely on me to be the last line of defense. But I just loved the line where he just looked at the camera and went, but I ain't afraid of contact. And I was like, okay. Thomas Morstead ready to strap on, the old chin strap there. I was like, okay, I love the chutzpah there from Thomas Morstead. And let's, so again, I think there are some creative things. I heard the Chiefs may think of like a Justin Reed to do the kickoffs and then be a defender, because really you don't need this dynamic kicker anymore, because now it's kind of a chess game of, and we're going to have to learn and I mean we, like the general we of Jet fans, have to learn all these rules about no more fair catches anymore, and there's all these other rules we're going to have to get familiar with. But now you don't need this dynamic kicker anymore just to boot it through the back of the end zone. There's all this strategy that's going on. So maybe you won't actually need a Thomas Morstead or a Greg Zuerlein. Do you actually get, like, again, we saw Chad Ochocinco at the end of his career kick a bunch of extra points or throughout his career. So maybe you can get a guy and maybe lean defense where they can be that guy. Maybe that's a strategy. So far, it doesn't sound like the Jets are exploring that, but that could be kind of interesting. And number two, I'm kind of curious on Braelon Allen, who has just exploded on the scene. He looks like, I've heard Joe Caparoso call him the Predator, where he's just, got the dark visor and he looks like he's going to beat me up and take my lunch money. And then apparently he's been some dynamic wide receiver. What do you make of this? He seems like the clear RB2 right now.
Yeah, it's PTSD for me personally, right? Like the first couple of primary guys are not who I want to expose to special teams. So
yeah,
full confidence Breece Hall can make it through a full season. But if this is really the thunder and lightning combination, I would prefer Braelon Allen to be one of those last lines of, all right, we're on option C. Who's the best of the bunch we can get? Defensively, I don't think we've necessarily ever targeted anybody in the Robert Saleh era that has the background and athletic profile for returns. Essentially, it's usually always our running backs and wide receivers. I can't think off the top of my head like any of the UDFAs we brought in either that necessarily had a ton of return ability or really have the physical requirements to be a successful returner.
Yeah, we'll see. One guy, obviously, is Tariq Cohen, who has a varied background. He's still on the 90-man roster. We'll see kind of how he progresses. He's popped during, OTA is voluntary, but to DKB's point, there's no pads on yet. So it's great to see the burst and juice after all the long litany of injuries, which have been concerning. But I'll be kind of curious to see what happens during training camp because he could be one of those guys, whether a practice squad call-up on a game day, you could do that a handful of times during the season. That could be. And Taylor Sterling says, great guest, and I couldn't agree more. Sometimes you get a request, like your friend's like, oh, you got to watch this movie. It's phenomenal. And I'm like, all right, I'll tune in because you said it was great. I watched it. I'm like, holy crap, this sucks. So I will tell you, DKP, you don't suck. Okay? You do not suck, pal. As far as I'm concerned, you have been a compelling guy. Exactly. Check that off the proverbial bucket list. That has been spectacular. I've really appreciated your insights so far. Let's head back to the phone lines. We got JB, who just celebrated a birthday this week. A Johnny boy gracing us with his presence. What's up, Johnny?
What up, guys? DK, what's going on, brother?
My man, long time no chat.
I know, man. Hey, first and foremost, happy Father's Day to both of you guys. Not only are you guys awesome fathers, but you guys are great men as well. So appreciate the stuff that you guys are doing. The content's always A1. DK, you already know, bro. You do amazing stuff, dude. I agree probably with like 99.9 of the stuff that he puts up and everything. So
that's a good ratio. I like that percentage. If someone's telling me 99.9, I'm like, okay, not bad. Yeah.
Hey, you know what that means, man? So, like, for me, if I got a 99.9...
So what's that? Wait. So what's the 0.1? What do you hate about DKB that 0.1 of the time you hate his guts? What is that? Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't believe everything's always 100%.
Oh, okay. So it's like it's a more philosophy more than there's actually this 0.1 thing I've wanted to get off my chest for like 30 years, and now I'm just gonna unload on the guys. Okay, it's just a philosophy thing. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like, if you don't strive for at least for something to go and have some type of goal, right, to get to that 100%, then I don't know, man. I just,
okay.
I'm
don't mean to push. I just, but I agree. I see what you're saying. Because if you just told DKB, I agree with 100% of the things you said. DKB could be like, oh, okay. I believe in some crazy ass thing. You're like, well, you have no other choice. You must believe it because you've already committed to the pod. But now with your 99.9, you have a little background here. So if he ever says something crazy, I said 99.9. I didn't say 100. And then you can always back out on that. So it's good on you. Good move.
Yeah, man. So, hey, look, Morstead, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You guys know that he taught Pat McAfee how to tackle in the whole nine, right? And if y'all remember, Pat McAfee hits on a lot of these cats, right? So for me, put him in. That dude knows how to put the ball in places that were like awesome. And dude, if our kicker tackles one of these dudes, right, I feel like it sucks the soul out of the special teams on the other side, dude. Like, imagine that, bro. And we've seen dude run. Imagine Cat goes running the way he runs and whatnot, which, by the way, was probably my favorite thing, seeing that dude run.
The Hard Knock scene?
Yeah, man.
Phenomenal.
Awesome, bro. But dude, how many days we got left to practice starts again for us?
So it's the 23rd. Well, let me rephrase that. 23rd is report day. 24th is first day of practice. So we're a month and 8 days away.
Dude, it is like, it feels like it's a full year. I just cannot wait, man. Like, I'm so excited. But, I wanted to ask DK something really quickly, right? Because I think, Boy Green, I'm pretty much have always asked you, I think, every question under the sun already, man. So
that's true. Go ahead, DK. I'll take a coffee break. God, nice. Okay, let me just.
You drinking coffee finally?
I'm just gonna take a drink. From the Boy Green shop drink. Nothing, no product placement happening here. I'm just taking a drink.
How good is it, merchant? Like, if he was to put that right, like over his face and right under
Facts.
his hat. It's him all day, every day. It's just like perfect, right? But hey, DK, what's your thoughts on? Right, I know it's so early. I know it's still like and you've been putting out a lot of stuff on different players on your platform and everything, which I appreciate. Right, so you kind of breaking it down. But who are the players that you think on defense are going to stand out? Who are the players on offense that you're going to think out that none of us are talking about, right? That you say, hey, this player is going to be the one that's going to stand out in these positions?
Yeah, for sure. So defensively, I think the name that you're going to look at. Let me think outside the box here a little bit. So I won't name the obvious ones. If we're looking at the defensive line, I think the name to look at right now, and this is based on if he can keep this up in training camp, but Connecticut's Eric Watts, I think, is a huge underrated name. He's the guy that a lot of people are going to say can fill the JFM role, come outside, be a strong edge presence, reduce inside, be a strong pass rusher. He popped more than I would have expected. Granted, the defense with some of the ways that they set up the drills are in their favor. Linebacker, I wouldn't point anybody out because we just play too deep, like 80% of the time. So you're not going to see Jamie Sherwood and some of the other guys too much. If there's a name on the back end in that room, I'd probably say Chaz Surratt because the coaching staff seems to have fallen in love with him. There's certain things I take with a grain of salt and other things I kind of fully dive into until proven otherwise. Him saying that I can't remember the exact comments, but Chaz Surratt was something along the lines of like a future starting, defensive MVP or something. So that stuck out to me, especially since we didn't really see him at all at that point. And then in the cornerback group, I would probably say, or the secondary as a whole, Stiggers is my guy. It's been so long since we've had a true ball hawking anything, right? If you talk about this defense as it is right now and watching somebody like a Trayvon Diggs, for instance, if we had him on this roster, the complexity of that entire defense changes. It's not so much more keep everything in front of you, bend but don't break type of mentality. Now it's we're pummeling these guys. We have defensive guy after defensive guy on the line that's coming, attacking your quarterback. We blow up your running back when we can, or Quincy more so is doing that, for example. But having somebody you legitimately have to fear of not just it being a ball batted down on the ground, he can actually pick it off and return something. That's a real fear factor. So I think Stiggers finds a way to be able to take away or take over Brandon Echols' role. And I think you can see him maybe jump in there and get some snaps away from a guy like DJ Reed when they want to make things less obvious. Offensively, it's tough because the offense is kind of what it is. I think Braelon Allen's going to be the name in the running back room. I'm more of a Davis fan, but I think Braelon Allen might be able to run away with it, figuratively and literally speaking. And then in the wide receiver room, I think you're probably looking at the obvious, which is Malachi Corley. But Mike Williams, to me, kind of going back to the earlier portion of this, it's not just that Garrett Wilson now has somebody to take attention away from him. Mike Williams, without Garrett Wilson, is a wide receiver one in this offense. So he can literally go out there and dominate on his own when he's healthy. Outside of that, I don't really have any hidden names just because it's really hard with how we filled out the depth chart here and seeing enough of a guy to say that they'll break in and break out. But those would be some of the names I say keep an eye on.
You guys don't think that Michael Clemens, I don't know if you guys have seen it, he's cut down in weight, right? So he looks a lot thinner compared to where he was at last year. You don't think he's the one that fills that JFM role?
You said JJ?
Right?
Michael Clemens, he's talking about.
Oh, Clemens. Yeah, I don't see it. Clemens would have had to have kept the same weight he had, in my opinion, to be able to go back on the inside. That was the beauty of JFM, right? He was productive in both facets, outside and interior, but you never really lost a step with him, right? It's kind of like what teams like the Cowboys are able to do with like Michael Parsons. Like wherever he's going to line up, he's essentially going to have an impact. With Clemens at this point, I think the Jets have accepted that his best ability on the field is going to be able to stay out there on the edge, beat up on tight ends, take advantage of some of the lesser athletic tackles, and just set a strong edge. And every once in a while, he'll be able to go out there and feed into the pass rush. But he just didn't really have the athleticism at his higher weight to be able to go on the inside and bang with, the 320 plus guards and centers out there. So I just don't think it's in the cards for him.
Yeah, we'll see if the updated weights come in. That's normally around training camp, but on the Jets official roster, Clemens is listed at 263. JFM on the Broncos website is listed at 288. So there's a big 20-plus pound gap there, but I'll be curious because normally they did just have their physicals during media day, so you would think that the numbers are accurate, but we'll do another discount double check when we get to training camp to see if they update some of those numbers. Everyone knows I love Michael Clemens. He's my guy. Got to dap it up with him in the locker room at the Hall of Fame game and chop it up. I love Michael. I think the thing we can see from Michael, that it may not be the role in terms of, being what JFM was, but the enforcer is what Joe Douglas called him, that you just need that bad motherfucker. Let's just be honest. In the room, he's that guy, and that energy can be infectious. That's what they kind of talked about with John Simpson a little bit. You watch some of those mic'd up offensive line clips where he's just finishing guys, and he's just going, yeah, motherfucker. And then you're like, whoa, Jesus. And then, but that can kind of spread to the rest of them. Like, look at this guy. Like, that's our guy. And then that kind of energy. So I kind of evaluate the trench warfare from the same standpoint that you have that guy that is just the don't mess around with guy. I heard Sauce on the Green Light Pod. He was talking about the guy that he has to calm down on defense. It gets like so extra is Michael Clemens as this guy that like wants to beat someone with a baseball bat. It's like, Jesus, like, yeah, whoa, rein it in. Yeah, rein it in there. Say, whoa, hey now. Like, get him in there. But we'll see. The thing is, and I feel like Michael Clemens is getting, relatively fucked from, and the standpoint I'll say is Henry Anderson. This is a weird callback, but a bunch of years ago, the Colts were switching schemes, 3-4, 4-3, 4-3, 3-4. They're flipping all over the place. So Henry Anderson, because of the scheme they're changing into, all of a sudden became expendable for the Colts. The Jets flipped the 235th overall pick, which was a 7th rounder back then, for him. They get Zaire Franklin, who's been a great Syracuse local guy here, and shout out to him. He got paid this offseason, $30 million plus. But they got Henry Anderson in, and he had to shift his weight back again. So he's at his weight. Colts flipped the scheme. He's like, son of a, I guess I got to switch my weight. And then they traded his ass. He has to be the most angry man in history that he was here, then there, then here, then there. So that's kind of what's happening with Michael, who was insert, and then like, actually load up a bunch of weight, eat it, fatty. And he's like, all right. And then now they're jerking him back the other way. So I think once he kind of finds a homeostasis here, whatever weight they want him at, he can kind of develop. I think that's going to take him to another level too. So being multiple years in the scheme and then finding his place and then stop being herky jerky around with all this weight. No wonder that there could sometimes be some lack of stuff. That I'm not going to cover up for all the mistakes he's ever made in his history here with the Jets, but I think that's affected him physically a little bit as well, getting kind of jerked around. So
I just with Michael Clemens, man, like I hope, do you know what his weight was last year? Because I want to say I
would assume it's that number. So that number that we see, again, I don't think they truly update the roster sheets normally till training camp. So the number that's up there, that 263 number, I think that's the number from this past season, to be honest with you.
Because he looks a lot thinner. I don't know if you guys have seen him, which to me,
just some photos.
I was hoping that he did that because I felt like he was a lot slower this year because he put on all that weight. Mm-hmm. And I think he's one of those cats that need to be a little bit more thinner to get off the ball a lot quicker. And then, just like you were saying, DK, a lot of those more not so good tackles that he's going against, he could go ahead and get around. So, I'm excited. Dude, like, we talk Jets all day, every day. We have problems, guys. Like, there's something mentally wrong with us.
Yeah.
Like, the Jets have not done nothing for us to be so souped up and hyped about it. Like, look at Boy Green, right? Got that fresh Jets hat on there, right? Rocking it and everything. What have they done? We haven't made the playoffs since, like, 1902.
Yeah.
Makes no sense, man. But
imagine how we're going to act when we get this chip.
Damn straight. People are going to be, I'm just going to let them know right now. I'm going to be intolerable. And, it is what it is. I'm probably intolerable now to a lot of people. I kind of get that on Twitter every day. But nonetheless, I just have to say that, like, I am going to be every week as we progress through this. When, not if, when the Jets beat the 49ers, the world goes, oh, my God, what's going on with the Jets? And I'm going to be like, yeah, motherfucker. Well, watch next week. Tennessee. New England Patriots. Watch that. And it's just going to be a lot of a lot of that action is going to be happening. A lot of pelvic thrust. Yeah.
Hey, BG, any more noise on the Woody and BG coming to the home opener?
Well, let me, I guess, announce this on the show. My Father's Day gift to my dad, and I haven't said this anywhere, will be getting him tickets to the Patriots game for me and him. So it's official, baby. We're going. Jets Patriots week 3 home opener. We're going to be there. I was just talking with Nick Shine the other day because he's doing a lot of the other stuff together. So I'll see if we could all sit together and make all that happen because he's getting the group rate and discounted tickets and stuff. So yeah, me, him, and then obviously Woody will come along and all our listeners and followers. So once that's official to us, I'm just breaking it now, I guess, on the show. But once it's like official with Nick, I'm going to make like a graphic and everything, and hopefully we could promote it and market it the hell up. But yeah, baby, it's happening. Week 3 home opener.
I'm gonna be there. My dad will be there. My oldest, she'll be there as well. DK, any luck?
Yeah, come on, peer pressure. Let's peer pressure his ass. Yeah,
I've been wanting to. It's my last kid, so after this, I'll be able to start planning to be able to pull up to some tailgates and whatnot.
Dude, I hear you. I'm on the same boat. My wife is due like literally, bro, like any day. If she's not around here, right, bro? Like I feel so bad. She's so big right now.
Yeah.
Her so swollen right now, dude.
Wow.
Like it looks like elephant feet, bro. Like
oh my,
wow. No ankle right now. I feel
Those
bad.
couple weeks leading up to the birth are terrifying.
Yeah,
yeah. Like she's like, get me an oatmeal. Get me some brownies. Like what?
Yeah.
No. All right. I appreciate you guys, man. Look, it's still JETS. Dude, I should not drink anymore because I am not 21 anymore. My boys were like, yeah, come on, bro. You just turned 37. We got this. What's the significance of being 37? I don't know. It's stupid. Why do we drink so much? And I'm hurting today. So,
well, I appreciate that, Johnny.
Always
God bless.
A pleasure. DK, awesome stuff, man. 24 more days, I guess. 24 more days.
Appreciate that. Okay, take a cold shower, pal. All the hangover stuff, and one of these for you. Damn straight, baby. We go back to the phone lines. Let's see. We got Ricky New York here on the program. What's up, Ricky? Oh, look at that crisp hat. Brand spanking new out of the box. Holy cannoli.
Fire.
Ooh, nice.
Anyways, you know what? Hearing that Brant Boyer had kind of pounded the table for Isaiah Davis, and after watching the XFL version of what our kickoff rules are going to look like I said, the first touchdown I saw was a guy, and it was a running back, and he was broader guy, and as soon as I saw it, the first thing I thought was Isaiah Davis. But I'm going to throw out a couple of names that nobody's talking about.
Please do.
And on the defensive side, Leaky Fotu.
I love Viking.
Yeah, I think he's going to be, the run stuffer that maybe we've been missing. I think he's going to contribute nicely. On the offensive side of the ball, it is tough. But here's a name that people aren't talking about, and you guys weren't talking about. My boy Conklin. Conklin's going to have a huge year.
Well, you must have missed it, Ricky, because this show, again, we kind of reacted to Mina Kimes and Greg Rosenthal's, who's their biggest X factor for the Jets. That's a non-coach and a non-quarterback. DK here, he picked Tyler Conklin as his number 1 X factor. So, yeah, he's on the train, baby. Toot.
You know what? Yeah, I just came in I just walked in from work like maybe 10 minutes ago.
That's okay. So we forgive you. That's okay.
I did miss the beginning. Additionally, man, it's going to be interesting to see how Gibson figures in, because like he's been really active so far, through OTAs and everything, and I think they definitely have a role for him. It's just going to be interesting to see, like how much run does he get as Corley is still kind of getting acclimated. How long does it take Corley to take that job?
Right.
That's going to be an interesting one. And the other thing is, like, I like that you guys were mentioning Watts, because I'm thinking, all the undrafted free agents can't make it. They're not all going to make it. But,
correct.
Out of Taylor and McGregor and Watts, like who's it going to be? Like I was a Watts guy right from the beginning. So like
we'll see. Well, remember last year, we're like, boy, Jason Brownlee or Xavier Gibson. They're two guys who are in a room. Here's a nightstick. Only one of you is walking out of here. And surprise, motherfucker. All of a sudden, both made it. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, here we go. So maybe you could get that. It's going to be incredibly difficult. The defensive line is the hardest group. If you're a UDF fan, like, wow, I just got to the Jets. Like, geez, that's going to be very difficult to try to crack through because it's such a talented group. But again, we lost two guys that would have been on, JFM and Bryce Hope. Those guys would have been guaranteed roster lock. So there's a little bit of flexibility there right now. So maybe multiple make it, but it'll be an interesting conversation.
You know what? I'm so glad you said something that you just said, because this is what I'm going to say when we make the playoffs, when we do go all the way. And you also mentioned Nick Shine, which Nick Shine just started watching Dexter, and one of my favorite lines.
God, what a great show! Yeah.
Walks in and he's like, "Surprise, motherfucker!" And you just said it. So
I love that line.
I do too, man. That's like, you know what? I think that's going to be like a meme or something coming up real soon, like a Jets meme for us. So I think I'm going to get to work on that after the show.
Please do. I got to use that last year when the Jets drafted Will McDonald. I had Joe Douglas, the Jet fan. Surprise, motherfucker!
Yeah,
they got some carry. They got some carry on social. I won't lie. They got some carry. Yeah,
I bet. Like I said, that surprised all of us. So yeah, no doubt. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna run and let somebody else come on, or
appreciate
let you
that.
go.
All right.
But you guys have a great day, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ricky. Yes, and appreciate it. Coming home from work, an overnight shift, and jumping right on over to here. What a real friggin' trooper. All right, we'll keep it rolling here. NY Jets FL joins us here on the show. What's up, brother?
Good morning, gentlemen. DK, good morning. You just brought up a subject which was music to my ears, which was Braelon Allen. I think that kind of guy in our offense with a capable offensive line, we could do a little bit of the Derrick Henry type offense, where not only can we dictate the terms of the game, we can make the elusive third and ones and fourth and ones, which we could never do last year. Short yardage, goal line, closing out games, bad weather games. Not to mention the catching out of the backfield. So I just think the ability of us on offense to go into a game, say against whatever opponent you want to pick, say San Francisco, low scoring game, Miami, maybe a high scoring game. We go in there and we dictate terms of our terms on them. We impose our will on them. So that's, to me, the most interesting dynamic. And real quick on the Johnny thing about being Jets fan.
Yeah.
It takes a certain person to be a Jet fan. I wouldn't say we're nuts. We're certainly passionate. We could be borderline nuts, but we're certainly a passionate group, right, Paul? I see what Paul's doing. Certainly a passionate group. Yeah, borderline crazy, I guess. Go ahead. But the Braelon Allen thing was my first point.
Yeah, go ahead, DK.
Yeah, as far as Braelon Allen goes, I think the Derrick Henry comparisons are the obvious thing I keep hearing.
Sign me up.
I think he's probably one of the top 5 heaviest running backs like right now. what intrigues me the most, I think definitely the OTA news about him being a better receiving weapon than anybody expected, right? He wasn't heavily utilized with Wisconsin. But this is that whole battering ram kind of conversation. We're expecting to be up in a lot of these games. Let's just say we're averaging 10-point leads or something, going into the third, fourth quarter. It would be nice to say, all right, we don't have to beat Breece Hall into the ground. Let's let Braelon Allen go and punch some people in the mouth for, the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. Sprinkle in some Isaiah Davis, who's also going to punch you in the mouth. And then we can switch some things up and, throw Breece Hall back in there, let him hit the edge on you, go, 23 on the GPS, and call it a day and close out a lot of those games on the ground. It would be music to my ears to see us hit, double-digit touchdowns on the ground for once in forever. I think last person to do it was maybe Sean Green or Chris Ivory for us. So,
damn.
I think we're set up to allow that to happen this year, and Braelon Allen could be the key to jumpstart a lot of that.
Damn straight.
Yeah. Not to mention time of possession in these games. Our defense was up much, and you can only, our defense was basically our only thing last year to hold things, and special team. The only thing to hold any hope of in a game, our defense was the only thing that could hold down the fort because our offense was so ineffective. So this year, with a competent offense, that defense should be not only fresh, but emotionally engaged. I can only imagine these players going into a game with Zach Wilson. I don't care who you are. If you're going in with a guy like back, you have to have some kind of, here's another week. You go in there and things start going backwards, and you're in the game and you're like, oh man, here we go again. We got to do this. We got to do that. Then we got to look at the score. Then we got to say, we get 3 more possessions in the game. We got to score on every one, or we got to get a down or special team. It's got to be demoralizing.
Right, so they should play looser. They should put, and even more in the tank. Like, man, if Rodgers just did that, okay, there's another gear, right? That everyone says there's 0 to 100%. Maybe there's 110%. Maybe there's some other, level you could get to for these players. So yeah, that part I'm excited about too. Especially again when you have Rodgers on the other side. There's just a faith and belief in your own ability of what you do to have it on the other side. I agree.
Yeah, I'll make it short.
Sure.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And the one statement I will make is congratulations on the sex.
Thank you. God bless. Yes. Blessed be he.
I might see you Thursday night at New England. I'm going to try to make it happen. So
please do.
You guys have a great Father's Day. Enjoy the day. Watch some golf too if you watch the U.S. Open.
Yeah, U.S. Open is on. Feel free to get your golf game on. I appreciate it. Well, DK, a terrific debut. I wasn't sure what the expectations were, the over-under, some of the Vegas numbers heading in, but you were the yin to my yang. That's probably weird. We're making some clay together. There was some salt and pepper action happening here that was spectacular. So, DK, God bless. What a great appearance, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. It's been fun. There's definitely been a few appearances I've been on when requests or collaborations have been done, and I've had some second thoughts for sure. But yeah, for the most part, most of the people are generally fun. It's definitely up there on my list of guys for me. So I appreciate it.
Up there on the list. I'll put that on my refrigerator for mama. And of course, like I said, there is a direct link to your YouTube channel below. But please, for the 400 people that are in the room right now, you have an opportunity to make a pitch, okay, to the great people of why in God's green earth, besides this hour-long, pitch, quite frankly, that you've been doing. But what if people click on that link and they watch your videos, as I did in the build-up to this interview, what are they getting? What is your secret ingredient? What do you bring to the Jets community when they watch your videos and your content?
Excuse me, Jesus.
That's okay.
Christ.
It gets emotional. I can understand. Yeah. It's an emotional time.
Yeah, I don't think there's a billion of us these days, especially with the hype building, right? So I don't think there's a standout trait per se, but through my eyes as I'm in that weird division, right? I'm, approaching mid-30s. So I've been there for some of our last great waning moments leading up into a lot of the tragedies now. So to a lot of people's point, there's no brittle spirits in this New York Jets community. If you're a fan, you're in there thick and through. So I just try to bring a fresh perspective from my eyes. It's never just reacting to anything in the moment. I try to consider, what's going on in the near future, maybe potential long-term if we're talking draft picks and, over the course of their initial contract. But I just have fun with it. I love dabbling into the scouting community side of things. I love just reacting to some of the reports and news that are coming out, and then always just tossing in my thoughts here and there. And for the most part, I just the main goal is to strive to just build on that communication. I love the questions that come in, some of the comments, whether people love what I'm saying, they hate what I'm saying, whatever it is. Just something to keep the noodle working and make me consider all angles.
And let me one quick follow-up here before we wrap up the show. Like me, I'm on every gosh darn day at 7:30 in the morning. Are you on a certain day or time, or is it as news happens? What's your flow on that channel?
Yeah, no, as a family man, there's no way I can pull off the Jet Central type of 2 seconds later reaction stuff. Normally, I record at devious hours of the night, try to drop stuff at 4 a.m. my time, so it's 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's normally when I drop things. Other than that, I don't generally stream a ton anymore. If I do, it's usually like mid-afternoon-ish, but normally early morning is when you'll see content coming out from me.
All right, I appreciate it. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to Boy Green Daily. We'll be back on tomorrow morning, same time, same channel, everybody, at 7:30 a.m. You guys take care now, and we'll see you. Enjoy Father's Day. Again, a happy Father's Day to everyone out there. God bless.